Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. It is Wednesday, that means it's altcoin day. Gonna start with the obvious UJ chart because that totally makes sense for an altcoin video, right? Well, if the bond market starts to explode, if the bond market gets scared, if rates keep curling up, then everything's gonna get spooked. So what you don't want if you're in altcoins or in stuff way down the risk curve is something like UJ just on a runaway freight train. Now, because of this trade and how it's set up based on the rates of the two countries and the differential of those rates, this will continue to lift off, right? We had UJ spike to 160, Bank of Japan came in, sold it down. They sold it down a couple times. We are right back to 158. So we should probably see some sort of intervention here sooner rather or later, and that should temporarily help rate fears. The other problem is we're also seeing, here's a longer term view, but the other problem is we're also seeing our own auctions for bonds curl up just on their own. There's just so much debt we're issuing, not enough buyers. So eventually this points to problems. So what do we not want to see for alts or Bitcoin, right? I don't really care about alts. Let them all go to zero. They're all worthless. But for BTC specifically, you definitely don't want the 10-year yield going to 5+. Or you do, right? There's this yin and yang between, we know things are eventually going to explode just by their very nature of how things are set up here. So just let it happen. But on the way there, it's going to be pretty painful. After things explode, they are likely to step in with more liquidity, QE, whatever, swap program, like call whatever you want. It's all roughly the same thing, more liquidity. But we're not quite there yet. We're not quite to yield curve control yet, but we're on our way. And the real fear here is if BOJ needs to raise money to fix the UJ price, they will need to sell our bonds or T-bills, whatever they have, and that brings yields up even higher, and that spooks the market even more, and then things get even worse, right? It's a runaway freight train. DXY also up today, which is not what you want to see. We are inversely correlated to yields and dollar strength. We also have some Gemini earn distributions coming down the pipe sooner rather than later. I'll just leave this in the description of the video. My guess is most of the stuff is just going to get sold rather quickly once it gets distributed to people. Admittedly, most of this list is not super significant dollar value wise. It's mostly Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol. But all this other stuff, I'm guessing, if I'm Joe Public, I'm not going to keep holding on to it any longer. We've also got Gox coins coming by the end of the year. Probably not this week or next month, but eventually it's going to happen. If I had to rub the crystal ball, I'd say, well, maybe in Q4 or Q3, either in the seasonality period of Q3 where September is horrible, awful, always. This would be a perfect catalyst for a terrible September to give back all these people their Bitcoin. It's about time, don't get me wrong, but that it won't be taken well price-wise. Whether or not people sell X percentage of their holdings, whether or not they're going to keep holding forever, I don't really care. For me, it's just easier to assume everybody's going to sell everything the moment they get it, and if they don't, it's a bonus. They're certainly going to sell their BCH. I certainly would, so I definitely wouldn't want to be holding on to any of that come D-Day for Gox. But it would make sense, just based on seasonality, again, that this comes sometime in Q3. So we do have some events that may anger the market. And you may say, well, I'm an altcoiner. What do I care about Bitcoin? Let it go to zero. Well, look, if Bitcoin gets angry, price-wise, alts probably also get angry. Before I go any further with charts here, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro with the link in the description of this video. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Ventures, Inc., PVI, DBA, Kraken. If we hop on over to Kraken, lots of alts here. Again, depending on your jurisdiction, you may see certain things listed where others are not. We'll take a look at Pepe and all the meme coins today. Most everything else not really doing much. There, of course, is always going to be your odd random alt doing some crazy move on any given day. But for the most part, it's been kind of a quieter day today. Previously, all the meme coins over the past couple of days had been lifting off, but not really much going on today. Another important chart to look at and pay attention to on the NFT side of things is the watch chart. This is not, who cares about watches? I certainly don't. But the point here is, what is this telling us about liquidity? What is this telling us about Main Street? What is this telling us about the type of person who participates in trading alts, trading crypto? We continue to see a drain here price-wise. This is an index of watches. Big spike in 2022, came way down. Maybe you could call this a falling wedge, but this does not look bullish. My guess is, here's the important part. My guess is if this curls up, and when, because I expect it to curl up eventually, that's when alts start to do well. That's when NFTs start to do well. Now this may be leading or lagging the broader altcoin ecosystem or liquidity, but it's just another little thing to pay attention to. I could care less about NFTs personally, but again, it's here's the data if you want to track what's going on with NFTs. I couldn't even tell you what the first thing is about any of these and why they matter, but some of them are doing quite well even now. And I think that's because they have maybe like a cult-like following. But if I was in the NFT game, now would be the time for me to start looking for things, because valuations in general are down significantly. If we look at the Bitwise NFT fund, it is down 65% since inception. You can see what's in this. Inception, by the way, was December 2021, basically the top. Mostly CryptoPunk, some other stuff, right? So this is maybe roughly some idea of things to track. They don't have a price chart to look at here, but the point is, if in Q4 we start to get rates down, liquidity up, this is the type of stuff that I expect to start to do well. So maybe a bellwether of things to come. Looking at stablecoins, I think it's pretty clear that USDC is viewed globally as a USD CBDC effectively. I have not traveled abroad recently. I have not interviewed people in 16 countries, but my assumption here is that most people in Asia, in South America, in Europe prefer Tether to USDC. And that's why we're seeing Tether demand continue to rise, Tether issuance continue to rise, despite maybe not a lot of trading necessity for that. You know, this feels like literally people using it as money. That's what this looks like to me. Whereas USDC feels like if DeFi is healthy, if trading across chains is healthy in the crypto ecosystem, you would see this continue to rise. So this is hinting a little bit that, you know, the liquidity in the crypto ecosystem isn't necessarily still completely bullish, right? We're sort of flat here, down from highs. USDC, by the way, is still not higher than the SVB debacle, and still not higher than when Binance sold everything for other stables, for their own stable. So definitely some recovery to go there, but I think this is another bellwether to watch. If USDC starts popping off, we get prints on ETH and Sol and AVAX and wherever else they are, then we're probably back, right? So we're getting there, but we're not quite back. If we look at dominance in the candlestick chart relative to the weekly cloud, it's down from highs. It's still bullish on trend. We're post-halving. It is what it is. The more important thing here, again, is the liquidity piece in the blue line. This is US liquidity specifically. What helped watches go up and NFTs go up and car sales explode and all this other stuff, right, was the liquidity jump in the US. Now, we don't need a massive liquidity spike again, but it helps if liquidity is rising instead of flat, rising instead of falling. Not quite seeing that here so far, right? We're basically just ranging on liquidity, and that favors Bitcoin. So the expectation is once liquidity picks up, post-halving, you have a weak dollar, you've got rates probably down, and then you've got dominance down. So we're not there yet, and all that's just to say, look, it's not quite the time for altcoins yet. We're still bearish on the alt BTC index here relative to the 3-day cloud. We're getting there, right? We're getting there. So for some people, depending on who you are and where you are, it's a great time to start DCAing into alts. That's not me, right? But some people prefer that. There's certainly a chance that we don't get liquidity back. We don't get rates down. We get inflation up instead, and we get rates up. Now that would be devastating for alts. That would mean dominance higher. That would mean this index lower, most certainly. Something else to pay attention to is IWM, because if the small cap index, Russell 2000, if this does well, that probably means rates down, liquidity up, right? So there's lots of different things you can look at. You can look at NFTs, IWM, watch charts, ARC. You can look at all sorts of stuff to see what's going on. This to me, by the way, does not look bullish at all. This looks very bearish here still. Nice little head and shoulders on that. As for Bitcoin, we look fine. You know, it looks not as bullish as it did a couple days ago. Certainly less bearish than it did 2 weeks ago. To me, it's about what you'd expect post-halving. Give it 100 days, give it 50 days. We are likely higher than we are now. Plenty of supports on the way down. I have no issues with holding BTC here on the daily cloud. We are still firmly holding a bullish TK cross. Definitely don't want to see us scrolling around back inside the cloud if we can help it. But maybe we poke down there on Gemini selling something, or PCE comes in higher than usual, or it should, as far as expectations, or unemployment next week is whatever. I don't know, right? There's all sorts of reasons why we might float lower. There's potentially an inverted Adam and Eve here. So all that would mean bearishness for alts. The best case for alts here is just Bitcoin goes sideways or up slowly. But if Bitcoin falls, alts probably do very poorly. Here's what I'm currently allocated into alts. It's not much. I don't know. It's like 50 grand or something. I like Near, I like Sol. ETH I could care less about. Personally, it looks fine. Doge looks good. BNB looks good. And then I'll talk about the others, including Bonk. Many weeks ago, we talked about this theoretical meme coin portfolio where you could DCA each week into whatever, maybe pick 5 meme coins and 5 other coins that I'm going to talk about or whatever, right? It's up to you. It's your portfolio. But as an idea, I would think of it like this over multiple weeks, because you have to give yourself the optionality of things getting worse before they get better, prices going down before they get up, right? You don't want to rush into something when, to me, it doesn't quite look clear that rates down, liquidity up just yet. I think it's likely. I think it's highly likely, but it's not like a slam dunk. So maybe you replace the bottom 5 alts here with something else. I don't know. Doesn't matter. It's up to you. But just as an idea, this is how I would go about doing it, because you're getting paid to wait in USD and yield. All right, we'll talk about the things that matter first, and that is meme coins. Unfortunately, look, these are worthless and valueless, but that's what the market is trading, and that's what's moving. Doge, unfortunately for me, not moving as much as the rest of them. I still like how this is positioned on the cloud. I still like the previous pattern. I think it looks fine. It doesn't look amazing. Definitely don't want this curling down. Then you most certainly will trigger some sort of stop loss, making a lower low there. But let's assume this can hold flat or drift slowly higher. Then I like basically a local high retest there. SHIB has started to curl up back above some low time frame cloud, making higher highs instead of lower lows above a diagonal resistance point. Looks fine, right? What matters most here is that it's in the category of meme coins, not layer ones. I'll take a look at those. Those look all mostly just flat, boring, down on the year. Who cares? Pepe, I did play in and out of at this point. Had a rising wedge. I think I talked about that Sunday. That's since broken down. It's reached the head and shoulders target. Cycle long, I'm sure this does fine, but here is not the spot for me as a tactical swing trade. If it can come back down to 10 or whatever this is, I like that a lot more. WIF, similar to SHIB, starting to break out, has this like inverted head and shoulders, ascending triangle quality to it. Looks okay. Biggest issue with WIF is it's actually it's very expensive relative to the other meme coins. So from a unit bias perspective, that could be a problem for WIF. Bonk broke out. It looks good. It's since pulled back like 20% from the top, but it still looks strong to me. Most of the move here is probably done, but I still like the structure. You know, it looks better to me than Pepe, but everything that's been moving has curled down a little bit. Floki broke out of this rising wedge. Doesn't look terrible. Maybe an eventual cup and handle here. Handle forthcoming. Has a decent move higher. Could argue inverted head and shoulders probably eventually as well. All sorts of fun stuff. The important part about all these is they are mostly at local highs, at all-time highs, making all-time highs. They're moving higher. A lot of this other stuff is doing a whole lot of nothing. BNB I've liked for quite some time. Unfortunately for me, the further this gets into this triangle, the more likely this is going to fail. Just like BTC, you can see this inverted Adam and Eve quality. Definitely not something you want to see. Ideally, tonight, we have some sort of intervention where UJ steps in with another I don't know, $50 billion round of something and sells down the dollar. That's only a temporary band-aid, right? Just like the last 3 or 4 interventions. But we definitely don't want to see UJ running out of control. Anyway, this is still potentially fine. We'll see. I think at 560, I got to cut this if it does break down. But it's holding for now. Then you've got NVIDIA, which kind of like meme coins relative to everything else. If NVIDIA is just full send mode, because we are in a QT, low liquidity, not low liquidity, but restrictive liquidity, I guess you could say, environment, then all eyes are kind of on one thing. All eyes are on stuff that's moving. So BTC may need NVIDIA to chill for BTC to break out. But a lot of crypto charts look like NVIDIA did pre-breakout. And we talked about this 2 weeks ago. This doesn't look at risk for imminent reversal. It's certainly bubblicious and parabolic and insane. But when we're talking about AI coins or whatever, right, it's important for something like this to do well. I think a lot of the AI coins are in the SMCI camp where they're just kind of waiting for NVIDIA maybe to cool off. SMCI looks very neutral to me. And then you've got stuff like Dell that's actually up more on the year than NVIDIA somehow. Just an absolutely wild chart that I don't think is really in many people's radars, but there's plenty of stuff going parabolic. There's Abercrombie and Fitch. there's all sorts of stuff that is just full sending right now, much harder than alts, which is kind of hard to believe. Then you've got NEAR, which has this excellent pattern similar to BNB, where it's patterned out for a couple months now, kind of just stuck here. Maybe there's a falling wedge here. I don't know. Again, I'm getting a little nervous that it hasn't broken out yet. Doesn't look horrific. Doesn't look ugly, but it could get ugly if it breaks below 7. Looks okay here. You know, you definitely don't want this just sitting at the neckline for weeks without breaking out. Render's another one on the AI side that looks good. Similar inverted head and shoulders. IHS looks fine. Daily Cloud likes it. Bullish TK cross. The cloud's just telling you, hey, trader, now's the time to be bullish. I mean, look at the Dell chart, right? Now, does the cloud know that the Dell chart is going to send it whatever 400,000% this is? No, it's just saying, look, here's the bullish TK cross, price above cloud. You just stay in the sucker until you get a bearish TK cross, and you really haven't gotten that on Dell since, maybe you got scared a little bit in Q4. But this is the stuff dreams are made of on the cloud, that's for sure. Not saying Render is going to have a 4,000% move, but it's telling you it's certainly on the bullish side of things. We'll put it like that. Then we've got the other AI stuff. AGX, Fat, Ocean, just doing a bunch of nothing. All coupled together. You've got AR and AIOZ, maybe some sort of inverted head and shoulders here. I'd like to think that NEAR would move first before the other stuff, but perhaps not. Perhaps Render moves and then NEAR moves. I don't know. Render and NEAR look the best among the group there to me. As for ETH, looks fine. It was not pricing in that regulatory catalyst, right? And then it did, and price went up. So now it's just kind of waiting for either more news, another catalyst, potentially a pullback here to the daily Kijun at 3,400, potentially makes a cup and handle. I think in the long run, it's probably fine, but we may see some speed bumps here just across the board, and that would bring ETH, I think, pretty easily to 3,400. ETH BTC still not seeing a close above the 2-day cloud or the, in this case, 400-day moving average. We'll just call it the 1-year moving average is still not favorable for a bullish picture here, as well as the pitchfork. All of this says not bull yet. It is what it is. The moment this flips, I will be right there to tell you and let you know, but we're not there yet. Sol just chilling up here. Daily Cloud looks fine. You don't want to see this break down below 140, but up here looks okay. Maybe an eventual cup and handle type breakout there. Sol ETH has actually saved itself, so this may break out. I don't think so. Today we got news that CME has no plans to start trading Solana futures, so that means no plans for ETF applications, most likely. So ETH should win based on potential flows. It's going to be Wall Street versus Main Street. You're going to have retail trading Sol. You're going to have Wall Street maybe throwing money at ETH via ETFs. Still one of the most interesting charts to watch in the next couple months, I think. Then you've got all these others, all this other pile of junk. Tron, Apt, AVAX, Say, DOT, Atom, ADA, Matic. It all roughly looks the same year to date. Most of this stuff is down. ETC is up because ETH is up. Fine. But for the most part, this is not where you want to be, I don't think. It's really not my focus. And that's why the market's focused on the stuff that's moving, the meme coins, not any of these layer ones. You also got Ton doing quite well. Again, maybe cup and handle, maybe inverted head and shoulders. This looks like it wants highs. It looks like it wants higher. I don't think it's for me. I think it's up a little too fast for me in the last couple months, but trend-wise, looks fine. Looks totally fine. You had a bullish Kijun bounce there. You had a Kijun bounce there. Moving average is caught up with price. This certainly looks better than all of this junk. I can tell you that much, right? So it's got that on its side. FTM is another one that looks okay. Doesn't look terrible. Again, you've got vibes of cup and handle or inverted head and shoulders or some sort of diagonal resistance there. It looks okay. Looks okay. Then lastly, the other stuff, the longer term, the DCA-able stuff to me, if I want some like moonshot, if I'm for sure bullish in Q4, if I for sure think rates are down, liquidity up, if I for sure think retail's coming back or whatever, this is the type of chart I would look for. Some last cycle piece of junk that's down 70, 80% still, ranging, not making new lower lows. That's important, at least on USD terms. It's got to be ranging. So that leaves you with AXS, Mana, Filecoin, Flow, Sand, Algo. I'm sure there's more. All of these have an opportunity, a chance, eventually. Give it 3 to 6 months, and things may get exciting. But this is this type of chart I would look for over, I'd be trading maybe Ton now, taking profits from Ton into other stuff, or taking profits from the meme coins into other stuff, depending on your time horizon. So in summation, pray for the intervention, because if not, things are going to get pretty dicey here pretty quick. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.